On a quiet suburban street in Boise, Idaho, sits a Craftsman-style home that looks more like a set from a horror movie than a family residence. Locals call it the Boise Murder House, or more disturbingly, the Chop Chop House. Why? Because inside these walls, a young man's desperate fight for life ended in one of the most gruesome murders in Idaho history. This is the story of Preston Murr, a victim whose cries for help were ignored, whose escape ended in betrayal, and whose death left behind both a haunting legend and chilling questions that remain to this day. Preston Murr was just 21 years old in the summer of 1987. Friends remembered him as tough but restless, with a strong will to protect those he loved. He was living in Boise with his girlfriend, trying to build a steady life. But Preston also had a fiery side, and after one funeral turned into a drunken brawl, his life spiraled into something far darker than anyone could imagine. June 29th, 1987. After a funeral, a fight broke out. Preston was cited for disorderly conduct, and later that night, his phone rang. A stranger's voice delivered death threats. Alarmed, Preston called police, but they dismissed it. Fearing for his safety, he turned to a friend he thought he could trust, Daniel Rodgers. That trust would cost him everything. Preston met Rodgers and another man, Daron Cox, at a Circle K convenience store. Witnesses noticed Preston carrying a baseball bat, a sign of how tense he felt. From there, the three men drove back to Preston's apartment, then eventually to Rodgers' home, the house on Linden Street. Preston called his girlfriend one last time, assuring her he was fine. She begged him to come home. He never would inside the Linden Street house. Conversations shifted from threats on Preston's life to missing guns Rodgers believed were stolen. Tensions escalated, and alcohol fueled the rage. Suddenly, shots rang out. Preston was hit in the shoulder. Stumbling, bleeding, he ran for his life. He banged on a neighbor's door, screaming for help. The neighbor peeked out, hearing Preston cry, "Let go of me!" Then silence. Moments later, the neighbor saw two men hosing blood from the porch at 805 Linden Street. He called police. No one came. Preston was dragged back to the house. In the basement, he was forced to his knees and shot in the back of the head. His killers, Rodgers and Cox, then committed an unspeakable act, dismembering Preston's body with an axe and knives. His remains were stuffed into garbage bags, some tossed into Brownlee Reservoir, others discarded in a dumpster. The house earned its grisly name, the Chop Chop House. By daylight, blood trails stretched across the neighborhood. The same neighbor called 911 again. This time, police responded. They found blood spattered across the Linden Street house, bullet holes in the basement wall, and the first clues to unraveling the horror days. Later, Preston's body parts washed ashore near the reservoir. The community was horrified. Rumors spread. Was this just a drug-related killing, or something far more sinister? The investigation led directly to Daniel Rodgers and Daron Cox. Witnesses placed Preston with them. The evidence at the house was undeniable. The killers were arrested. Daniel Rodgers was sentenced to life without parole. Daron Cox served just 6 years for his role in disposing of the body. But the house itself remains, decaying, looming like a scar on Boise. Students who rented it years later reported eerie sensations, rumors of blood on the basement walls, and even sightings of shadowy figures moving through its windows. Whether haunted by spirits or only by memory, the Boise Murder House holds a place in Idaho's darkest history. A reminder of a young man's final cries for help that went unanswered until it was too late.